All right. Well, hey, my next guest here on the Love in the Land podcast, I had to have my buddy on here. He's a writer. He's a food critic, a 3-time New York Times best-selling author. He's like Oprah, ladies and gentlemen. Oprah for food. You can read his work in Cleveland Scene magazine and online, and also see him on WKYC TV. He's the man who makes or breaks every restaurant in town. People either love him or they absolutely hate him, but they should really blame themselves if they hate him if they don't have very good food. He's the Anton Ego of Cleveland. Give it up for my guy, Doug Trattner. Wow. What's up, stud?
Wow, good to see you. Thanks, Austin.
Dude, I'm excited to have you on here. So I think there's only one logical place to start off this interview, and it's just simply, so you like food.
I love food. Always
food
have
is
loved
cool.
food. More than that, though, I've always loved writing. I think that's really kind of what drives, a career like this, because it can get exhausting.
Yeah.
Eating out all the time.
Yeah.
And, so you have to love writing.
You know what's funny? So we're already going off on a tangent because most people would be like, oh, you get to go out and eat and it's on the company dollar, and but when it becomes your job, it becomes a job of going out. My correlation to this was, and Sam McNulty, with Market Garden, is not going to be happy about me, but I think he already knows this. In college, I had the dream job of being a Bud Light ambassador, okay? And my job was to go out 4 nights a week.
Yeah.
And it was like, I think it was 5 nights a week. And which, like, to any college kid, you go out and you get paid to give other people drinks, essentially. It was awesome, but then it became daunting. So
You were a beer fluffer.
I guess so.
Interesting. I listened to this great, it's probably This American Life, I think, a rerun of a show about a guy who did the exact same thing for Jose Cuervo tequila.
Oh.
And at one point, he said, if I'm going to keep doing this job, which I love, I got to stop drinking.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could just fall so quickly into that path.
Yeah.
But, you are at a really interesting intersection of writing and also food. How did this career really start? And I mean, how long did you grow up cooking? Were you in like a cooking home?
Yeah, no, definitely not a cooking home. We used to joke that the best thing my mother made was reservations. That's an old Jewish joke. And also she would keep the sewing machine in the oven because she used neither.
Yeah.
But we also had a big family, so we were not going out to fancy places, but we were going out quite a bit. And I just loved restaurants. I mean, from the earliest age, I just loved going to restaurants. And so I think that's where this all comes from. But, another, funny kind of anecdote is, how'd you get into food writing? And you say the typical answer, law. Because so many of my mentors were attorneys who kind of gave that up and went into writing about food. And that's really what I did.
That was a natural move, because, we've known each other for quite some time, and thank you for sending me a few notes. I did not, and that's why I like asking people, like, hey, send me a few things about you that normally people wouldn't know or I couldn't Google. I had no idea that you were a public defender for 7 years.
Yeah, it was, it was probably the only law job I could have done. I was, with like-minded people. It was a great job right out of law school. I clerked there first, and you're trying cases within a year. So it's a great place to start for an attorney if you want to be an attorney. I quickly realized that, maybe this isn't the best fit for me.
Yeah.
And I stuck it out for as long as I could, and then I called it.
Yeah, I mean, 7 years is a long time to figure out something that you don't really like.
Right. Well,
a little slow on the trigger on that.
Some people get divorced after 30.
That's true.
So at least I figured it out after 6 and a half. And then, the transition was I moved back to Cleveland, because I was in Columbus for half my life at that point, and just started kind of going out. I was single. I was going out. I was, early 30s, and just started meeting all these people kind of in the business, photographers, writers, bar owners, that kind of thing. And it's like, oh, wow, like this is kind of, and it was also at a time, we're talking about 2000 when Cleveland was really waking up.
Yeah.
Food-wise, bar-wise, club-wise, neighborhood-wise. And so I started meeting all these people, and luckily one of them was a photographer for the Plain Dealer. And so he said, hey, they're always looking for freelancers.
Yeah.
And so that's where I started. If you think about it at the time, like there was freelancers because everybody was still kind of union writers. And if you really wanted to get the kind of the the vibe of a club that's opening in the warehouse district, you got to go there 11 p.m., right?
Yeah.
You're not calling them at noon and going, hey, nobody's picking up the phone.
No one picks up the phone at that point. So interesting. So you left your job as a public defender while you were doing that in Columbus?
Yeah.
Okay. So you leave there, you come up to Cleveland. Did you have a job? Were you doing something up here? Did you have an idea, or was it just like, I'm just going to go back home?
Yeah, no, I had a super cushy transition job. I was in sales. I felt like, this guy is not built for sales.
Sure you are. You got a great personality.
Right, and that's really what it was. And I knew the product. This was a legal research product. I knew it inside and out. It was easy to sell. It was kind of, the competition to Westlaw or Lexus, but affordable to someone who, only has kind of like one or two attorneys in there. So I made a lot of money, had a lot of free time. That's when I started writing.
Okay, awesome. So you get into freelancing, and did you kind of know immediately that you were like, there's something here, like starting to write for a little bit for the Plain Dealer?
I did, and only because of the reaction. So when I started writing for the Friday magazine,
your reaction or a reader's reaction?
Neither, editor's reaction.
Editor's reaction. Okay.
It's kind of like, imagine a pitch room where you're in this room with 8 other freelancers, and the editor goes, okay, what do you guys got? Give me your ideas, and you pitch your ideas, and if they like them, you get a story.
Those are stressful meetings. Right. Coming from a journalist, those are very stressful meetings.
Yeah, well, and coming from a no writing background, when you're surrounded by writers who you read in the paper every day and every week, it's intimidating, right? Yeah. And you're also, I was getting paid maybe $75 a story, $100 a story.
Oh wow, jeez, I didn't realize who I was dealing with over here.
Right. That's why I have all those fancy cars.
Yeah.
So you write it, it runs. If they call you back, you've probably done an okay job. And then you get another story and another story. And so that's how it's working out for you. It was a good fit. It's stressful, obviously, but at some point, you're like, okay, it's working for me.
So, and I'm going to bring this down just a touch for you. Just to cover your face. I'm just kidding. So how long were you at the Plain Dealer then?
Oh, I mean, forever, for a very long time. And so soon after I started writing for the Plain Dealer, the Free Times, if you remember that, we were a 2 all-weekly town. The Free Times was looking for a dining editor, or a restaurant critic. And a friend of mine said, hey, you love food, you love writing, you give this a shot. And so it was pretty early on. Maybe I've had literally 3 articles in the Plain Dealer when I tried out for this restaurant critic gig. And you write a few samples. You go to a restaurant, you write it up, you give them kind of a spec article, and that worked out. And pretty soon we had, from not writing at all to having 2 weekly deadlines, and that's kind of like Malcolm Gladwell talks about 10,000 hours. So I got there pretty quickly. Yeah,
no, absolutely, and just continuing to do it over and over and over again. In those early days, what were you looking for in a restaurant? And maybe is it the same today that you were looking for back then? What's kind of like I've always wondered, when you walk into a restaurant, what's the grading criteria that you use? Well, it's always evolving. I'm evolving. Restaurants evolving. Trends are evolving. Yeah. We like to say it starts even before you go into the restaurant, right? If you're calling for reservations, back then you called for reservations. Sure. Yeah. Yeah. How do they treat you on the phone? When you walk in, is your table ready? You look around. Is the room kind of put together? Do they come to your table pretty quickly? These are all kind of standard, typical things. A lot of that is the same, and a lot of it's changed. Sure. COVID did change everything. Absolutely, especially with restaurants. Yeah, especially with restaurants. And, I remember early on, I went through, I've outlasted, 7 different editors at a lot of these places. And early on, one of them said, if you want to make a name for yourself in food, just pick a restaurant that everyone loves and destroy it. So who'd you destroy? I did not. But early on, and again, these are trends where snark was in, and you can kind of you can poke a little fun at places, and I did a lot of that early on. That's kind of gone away. I'm not saying I won't do a negative review anymore. If you're holding yourself out to be a certain place, you're charging a lot of money. People expect certain things, and so I always say, I want people when they read the story to go, okay, that place is either for me or not for me. That's your job. This is service journalism. You want it to be fun and entertaining, or else nobody will make it to the end of a story. But at the same time, you want people to have a good idea of this place before they get there because of what they've read. Also, too, you have to put yourself in a lot of in shoes too of that. These are local businesses and they're local people and it's the local economy, and you don't want to drag someone through the mud unnecessarily.
No, and like I said, COVID really did change everything. So now, I'm doing fewer reviews. We're doing them like every other week. Still writing, obviously, a ton daily about restaurants. But I think the approach should change. It's like, okay, let's find places that are fun to kind of get behind and champion. And even great places. There's still things you can talk about. That say they could do this better.
Yeah.
But I think you're right. These are local businesses. I've been doing this for so long. I know a lot of the owners. So that kind of throws another complication into there as well.
Do you try to remain anonymous when you're making a reservation? Do you have tell me your fake name. What's your fake name? Or you just go under your wife's name.
Right. I do have them.
Rupert Pumpkin.
Even though when I walk in, they will very likely recognize me, except, these small mom and pop places that I still go to because I love, finding those places. They don't know who I am.
Yeah.
Maybe they know the name, but I won't make reservations in my name. I don't typically, you just show up and you hope for a good experience. Back in the day when Facebook came out, I never had my picture on it. I would remove tags when people did. I did the whole thing. I tried to remain anonymous for as long as possible. But after a while, you're just like, okay, well, even if you recognize me, you're not suddenly going to become a great restaurant, right?
Yeah.
So there's only so much you can do to prepare for something like that. So. That's how I did. I just kind of fly in and hope that to get a normal experience.
It probably works both ways, though, too. Even if you're not there on work or business, you walk into a spot and people are like, "Oh, Doug Trattner's here. Doug Trattner's here." So you probably get good service.
Well, and I think
people are probably freaking out in the back.
I would like to think that people already know. Like I do not want that kind of service. I don't like that kind of service. Good service is be there when you're needed and kind of hide in the curtains when you're not.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be. Nobody wants to be fawned over.
Yeah. What, in your opinion, you've been to hundreds, if not thousands, of restaurants. What do we got in your notes? Did you bring notes for me? Did you get questions for me? What's going on here?
I like having notes.
This is what happened on February 3rd, 1993.
Right.
That's the lawyer. He brought his own notes. That's the lawyer in you. I like that for you. What is the difference between, or the difference between a good restaurant and a great restaurant? Because, you walk into a place and you're like, oh, good, it was good. But then you walk out of a place just feeling a different way when you went to a great restaurant.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, it really does. It's not just good food. It's not just good service. It's not even just great, a great room. It's all of those things. It's kind of taking care of things that maybe you didn't even know you needed. Not just, keeping your water glasses filled and pouring the wine. I think a lot of people don't even, I don't want to come off like a snob, but
Snob away, pal.
You have to travel. You have to go to New York and go to Chicago and go to San Francisco and go to Spain and Mexico and see kind of what's out there. Because I think one of our least favorite words around here or in this business is when authentic. This is an authentic Mexican place. Or this is an authentic whatever. It's like. And then you go to Mexico and you're like, well, that's authentic. That's authentic.
Exactly.
They're all very different versions of authentic. And that's the definition of authentic, I think. So I think having an idea of what something should be like, are you trying to be like a real New York style deli? And if so, how close to that, ideal are you getting? Are you trying to be like this really kind of perfect French bistro? If so, how close did you get to that? So I think that's kind of it. Like, what are you trying to do and how close did you get to doing it?
Yeah, no, I get that. So you really went just a wild ride of, being a public defender for 7 years and now like Michael Symon's right-hand man. You've written 7 books for him that have been published right now, that are out right now. 8 sounds like it's on the way, correct? How did you and Michael meet? What's the background there?
Well, I met him the same way I met, every food person in this town or bar owner, and that's writing about his place.
Yeah.
So, when I came back from Columbus in 2000, the place to go was Lola.
Yeah.
And the place, and I remember not just Lola, just going to Tremont at that time and be like, I remember Fat Cats, I think, really blew me away first because I'm like, where are we going? Like, wait, it's this house?
Yeah.
And do I have to knock on the door? Is Mom gonna let me?
Do I have to take my shoes off?
Right. And the neighborhood, as you know, was very different back then. And we call these people pioneers for a reason, because they saw something that a lot of people did not see, or maybe other people saw it and just didn't have the cojones to really do it.
Sure.
Ricardo at Fat Cats did it. Michael Symon at Lola did it. And so, I would go there and eat and have a blast and write about it and all those things. And then Lolita, same thing, when he moved Lola to 4th Street. Around that time, I wrote a guidebook about Cleveland. It's just a massive project, the biggest thing I've ever done. I mean,
Yeah.
it was harder than some of these books I've done with Mike. And it came out around a time when he was starting to write cookbooks, and I think he was looking for somebody who could help him write the book.
And put me in. Give me like a timeline here. About what year was this, and what was his celebrity like at the time?
So he was still living in Cleveland. He was on the Food Network quite a bit.
Okay.
At that time, he was only doing kind of guest appearances on Iron Chef.
Gotcha.
Competing on Iron Chef.
Sure.
And I was lucky enough to cover that for the Plain Dealer, actually. So I went to New York while he was competing on Iron Chef. I spent a very long day, at in Kitchen Stadium.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, literally, it is I think it was a 12-hour day.
It's a half-hour show or an hour-long show, right. But it takes all day.
It takes all day, and I remember, we all went out afterwards and went to Mario Batali's pizza place, and we all just got drunk and had fun. But so right around, so he was very famous in that regard. And then there was that next Iron Chef show where he was competing to become an Iron Chef, and that's when and I went back again to cover that for the Plain Dealer as well. So 2 trips to New York for that. And I remember we were all watching it in Lola or Lolita at the time in Tremont when that one aired, and then he became, he won.
Yeah.
He beat out, I think, John Besh, and became, an Iron Chef. I think that's really when it started kind of really clicking for him and changing for him. And soon after that, he got the job on The Chew, which was like a major daily primetime show. And
huge.
So that was kind of the next big thing. And the timing for that was we had started doing this book. I was going to be, a ghostwriter.
This is the first book?
Yep.
Okay.
Carnivore. Massive, big, chefy recipes. And we're talking intestines, wrapped around intestines,
That seems a little out of my league. Yeah, I think I'm good on the intestines.
So the Chew really gobbled up a lot of his time. That's when he moved to New York, and things were really taking off for him. So my role as a ghostwriter kind of jumped up a little bit. I was doing a lot more work than I thought I would, but then again, I really didn't know what kind of work is involved in a cookbook.
Yeah.
And so... that's how it all started. So first book, Carnivore, 2000, I think 12 it came out.
And by that point, you guys, it seemed to me to be like that. The way you're describing is that you guys became good friends.
Yeah, I mean, we're good friends. We're good friends, but we have a long-term working relationship. So,
totally.
And you know how that is when You're boss and employer first, and I'm not saying that we don't get together and have fun, but we are always working on a book.
Totally.
You are starting the next book before the last book comes out.
Yeah.
It's this kind of leapfrog process. That's first and foremost our relationship.
I want to know a little bit about the process of doing a cookbook, because, just writing a compelling book is hard enough, and that's just words. But, with doing a cookbook, not only are you doing, you're talking about the recipe, you need numerous recipes. Not only do you need numerous recipes, you need numerous unique recipes, but they also have to be good. I mean, how much trial and error in the kitchen is it even before you put pen to paper to be like, all right, this is good enough to go?
Yeah, I think typically this is how the process works for him. Excuse me. You come up with the idea, right? And for him, these ideas have really kind of been organic, and it's really nice. So, he was dealing with these inflammation issues, right? He's got lupus. He's got, these things that, and it's around the time that everybody's talking about inflammation and kind of figuring out how important it is. And so he's like writing recipes. Well, first you come up with the idea, you pitch that to the publisher, they like it. Obviously, they want another book from you because everyone you've done, has done well. And then, that becomes Fix It With Food. And then Fix It With Food again. So you come up with an idea, you come up with the recipes. the recipes get tested over and over and over. So, I mean, this is a team, right? There's Mike, there's recipe testers, there's photographers, there's copy editors, there's, it's a big team. It's a lot of people. It's a very long process. But everything is tested. And then it goes through me because, so these are like chefs, right? They're not writers. And so the publisher has a very specific way these things need to be written. I mean, down to the order of the ingredients, right?
Yeah.
And the way they're written, the method. And then every recipe has a recipe header. Every chapter has a chapter header. Every book has a book opener. And so this is kind of all the meaty writing part that Mike and I work on together, and I clean up.
About how long is the process from, so you, let's just take the seventh book for right now. Remind me of the name. I have it written. Simply Simon Suppers.
Yeah, that's the one.
And I mean, there's a lot of books. How long did you guys start from concept to shipping out? I mean,
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of downtime in between. So,
like hurry up and finish type stuff.
Where it's like it's in-house stuff.
Yeah.
It's production stuff. It's copy editing. So you'll send in the massive manuscript. It'll come back with a million questions. I mean, like, did you mean this? Did you mean that? Like, it's just a back and forth process that would weaken anybody's knees. It's not fun. Yeah. And you're always like, it's always hurry up and finish this. And so you're trying to track down all the people you need, the recipe people, Mike and all. And then you won't see it for 2 months. Then it'll come back in another closer to finished format with fewer questions, but also like this no longer fits on the page. Now that we have the photography done and we put it all together, and so you're gonna have to whack off 2 lines here, so then you've got that process, and then it'll be another 4 months until you actually see the book in hardcover. Yeah, I mean, that's so much time invested, a lot going on there. Tell me about the new book. Let's. Can you share anything about about the book number 8 that's coming out? Yeah, it's no, I don't even remember.
It's in concept right now.
Okay, no, I got it.
What is the focus of the book?
So when I said that Mike has really kind of come up with these ideas organically, I mean it. So remember when COVID, came out, he was doing Fix with Food. Then he did all these like live cooking things in his kitchen, and like those blew up, and that that helped Fix It With Food become a New York Times bestseller. And then and then he was cooking outside in his backyard, and that became another Food Network show, and that became these recipes turned into a book. And so he's not daft, as they say. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's thinking it. So even long before this book is coming out, or even pitched, he's coming up with a consistent theme that will work well for a book. And
across all platforms.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, sure. I mean, who doesn't want to be able to like cook from home? Yeah. And that was always his dream, to like kind of set up a studio where it's like I can just do this in my backyard. So that's our newest one is all cooking out recipe, cooking on a grill. Okay, and these aren't just grilled foods. Yeah. I mean, you're talking about like, everything from appetizers to desserts done on a grill. Awesome. What has your relationship with him meant to not only your career, but to you personally? Obviously, it kind of gives me a credibility that, people want to write cookbooks, so they approach me like, hey, I've always had this idea for a book. Yeah. And, unfortunately, these days, the only people that really get to do books are people who maybe pay for them themselves. You can always self-publish, or you're someone pretty famous who is going to sell books like Mike Symon. You're on TV, you have a lot of restaurants, things like that. So, I feel bad when people approach me with great ideas, and I'm like, I'm sorry, like that's not what I do. You need to get a publisher, you need to have a book proposal, you need to do all these things that are very difficult. But I've also met other people and gotten other book deals because I think the work we do together. So I mean, long and short, it's just I've met a lot of great people through them. This is the work that I'm very, almost most proud of. It's what I like about my job as a restaurant critic and a cookbook author and a TV personality. Yeah, it's just being able to do different things. I mean, one of the reasons I didn't stick with law was because it was the same damn job every day of my life. Yeah, different people. Same job. Yeah. And I know that sounds, crass, but it's really, I like to I can't do the same thing. I can't sit still, and I can't do the same thing every day. How good does it feel to put 3-time New York Times best-selling author on your
LinkedIn bio.
It's also tattooed on my back.
Is it really? Yeah, I thought it was going to be on your butt. Yeah. That's pretty sweet, though.
Yeah, it is. It is pretty sweet. So, I in my defense, I know people say, well, Mike Symon, Mike Symon. That is true. But when you pick up a Mike Symon book, it's Mike Symon and Doug Trattner.
Yeah.
We're co-authors. It's something that he was, he suggested from the very start. He's like, the amount of work you do. And believe me, there are a million chefs that you see on TV that have people doing as much work as I do on their books.
Yeah.
And they get a thank you in the acknowledgement. Maybe.
Sure.
Because there's
but
a lot
that just goes to show just the character of Michael
Absolutely.
Symon.
Absolutely. He always credits the work that people do, whether it's the photographer, the recipe tester, the whoever. It's like, he knows that like these books don't get done, without a great team, and he gives everybody the credit they deserve.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm not originally from Cleveland. I really had no idea Cleveland, and I've been here for 6 years. But when I moved here, I think maybe the advantage of what I had of moving to Cleveland is that I didn't have low expectations. I had no expectations.
Those are the best kind.
That's the best kind. And so when I moved here, I was like, holy crap, they have beer here, and then I was like, oh my gosh, they have really good food here. For someone that, I didn't understand. I had to come here to figure it out. For someone that's never been to Cleveland, how would you describe the local food scene here?
I would say that we are, every bit as good as, all these other cities that we talk about. You're going to have a smaller, selection of those places. But, I think the big story in food over these past, 20 years since I've been doing it, and these are things that I kind of didn't foresee happening, but now you look back, trends in food, right? There are trends in food. So remember, like, everybody was opening up donut shops.
Yeah.
I went to the first ramen shop or a faux shop in Cleveland in 2001. It was new to me, right?
There's 100 now.
Right. Barbecue, it happened with barbecue, it happened with craft brew, craft beer, it's happening with ramen, it's happening with fried chicken. So, like, there are all these trends. You'll see them in New York first, and they'll make their way here. I remember going to David Cheng's, noodle bar in New York the first year it opened, and a few years later we had that here, and it's just as good. Maybe not just as good as David's, but we're getting all the same things. Maybe a couple years later, but the people who are doing them here are very serious about them. Our barbecue scene here, it went from 0 to 100.
It is solid. Yeah. The barbecue scene here is really good.
So it's like you might have fewer choices, but the choices are going to be great.
What would you say is like the quintessential Cleveland restaurant?
Well, it used to be Sokolowski's.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that was, I think this, obviously the Eastern European kind of roots angle is, that's Cleveland's bread and butter. The corned beef, the Slyman's places. It used to be Corky and Lenny's to me. I mean, that was my that's soul food for me. Jack's Deli is still doing it. Davis Bakery is still doing that stuff. But it's also, I think, you look at a place like Cordelia, and that is also very Cleveland. You can go there, you can eat there, and you can say, gosh, this is, as close to eating at the Greenhouse Tavern in the basement with John Sawyer, cooking across the way as you can get. So, and that's also very Cleveland because, I've always had this idea for a story, right? When I started writing about food, we had Symon, we had Zach Brule, we had Karen Small, Doug Katz, Paul Manillo. You have this pantheon of chefs.
Yeah.
And those people, they need cooks, line cooks. You hire a John Sawyer, you hire, this person, those people go out and they open a restaurant. And then you've got, so it's this, you can literally picture this family tree of chefs. And that, I think that's why Cleveland was ahead of a lot of other mid-tier cities, was because we had people in Cleveland doing it, like Symon and all those people I just mentioned. They came back here because they wanted to live in Cleveland. And they trained the next generation of chefs who, begat other chefs and so on and so on. And I think that's kind of where we are today. We are, and they'll tell you, standing on the shoulders of, the people who put them there. And that's exactly, I know it's a similar story with every city, but I think we got a head start.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so funny that the way that you describe that, because, I have the same thought with the craft beer. Everyone, the Garden of Eden of craft beer in Cleveland is
Great Lakes.
Great Lakes. Everyone that I've talked to at any brewery, craft beer, microbrew, whatever it is, there is at least one person making that beer who was working at Great Lakes, or the person who taught them came from Great Lakes.
Right. Market Garden you mentioned, Collision Bend I know worked there. Like you said, every single one of them.
Fatheads.
Fatheads, Matt, and
Matt.
We have great beer in this town. And we have, I think, a great variety of breweries in this town, which is more important, right? Because it's like you don't drink beer in a vacuum or in your basement like me. Just
alone and cry.
So you take a place like Noble Beast, which is, one of the best places in the world. You can practically see it from here.
Yeah, it's right here.
But it's because of the whole vibe, right? Obviously, Sean makes great beer, but it's that whole vibe of that room. And then you've got, big microbrewery or big kind of brew pubs, which offer different, like Masthead, a totally different vibe, but a lot of fun. So it's kind of the range of places in which to enjoy those places.
I wish Masthead was in a better location.
Well, it seems to be working for him.
I know it's working for him, absolutely. But it's like one of those places that like it's so out, and I work right down. But it's one of those places that I just like never think to go to. And when I go there, I'm like, I need to come here more often.
It's funny when Sean left Platform and he showed me his where he was going to build Noble Beast, and it was a shell. It wasn't even a shell at that point. It was just just a brick warehouse. And I felt bad for the dude. I really did. I'm like, man, you're sinking all this money. I was like, did you ever hear of the axiom location? Like, being near the FBI isn't all the,
like, they have to be sober on the job at the FBI, but not us news folk. Every going away party is like, where are we going? Noble Beast, of course.
It's proof that if you do something well, people will find you.
Yeah. Going back to what you were talking about with trends, food trends, what is the next trend that is on the horizon here? And like we were talking about, COVID changed the game for better or worse. For a lot of people, it was for the worst, but they had to reinvent what they were doing. And it seems to me that the ones who refuse to reinvent are the ones that are unfortunately going out of business. We're seeing a lot of the fast casual kind of coming into play. I'm thinking right now, the one that really comes to mind right now is Italian in Chagrin with Eddie Tancredi. And I feel like he just saw the writing on the wall and pivoted so hard of just being like fast casual quality good food. And not even just the style of restaurant, but also, or the business makeup of the restaurant, but also just like the style, as you're talking about. The donut shops are popping all over the place. Everyone wanted a frickin' taco stand. What do you think the next wave is coming?
Well, we're going through a pretty rough time right now, right?
Yeah.
So everybody's talking about inflation. Everyone's talking about the cost of doing business, how hard it is to find employees, both front and back of the house. I mean, these are just, it's the new normal, as they say. So what do you do if you're a restaurant owner? And obviously you're entering an industry that is also, it's very dicey. Everyone knows it, right? So you go for something safe or easy or both. So you've got fast casual, like you said, that relies on very few employees. That makes that a lot easier. Your numbers are so much better. Or you go really expensive.
Yeah.
We're seeing the Marble Rooms and the Fahrenheits and the Heritage, steakhouses. They keep popping up. So almost every other new restaurant, I'm like, wow, this is going to be a really expensive place. Because that's the economy right now, right?
Yeah.
You've got these people who could afford everything. You've got everybody else. And I think that's where, right now that's where we are. There's always the people who are being creative and pushing kind of that middle market. But you're going to have to do it yourself probably. You're going to have to be the owner and the chef or have, that's, I think that's the reality of it right now. But that doesn't mean that we're not seeing fun stuff. Like I think the latest trends are Korean barbecue and hot pot. Those are really fun communal experiences that are bringing people out to spend money. So these are things you can't get at home, right? Yeah. These are things you can't get on DoorDash and it's okay, fine. A chicken sandwich on your couch is as good as a chicken sandwich, in the restaurant. But I think when you talk about experiences like Korean barbecue and hot pot and things like that, you have to go to the restaurant to experience them. And you do so in a group, which makes it fun.
Yeah. And you bring up a good point. I am just enough of a decent cook to where I can say that I can cook you some pretty good food. So if I go someplace, I don't want to go someplace that I can make this myself.
Yeah. I'm that way with steak. I would the only time I order steak out is if I'm reviewing a steakhouse.
Yeah.
I mean,
Are you saying that you have the best steak in town, Dougie T?
Oh, yeah,
Put him on record.
Mr. Brisket is down the block from me in Cleveland Heights, so you can tell him I want USDA prime steak this thick. You fire up the charcoal grill, or even better, over wood, and use a thermometer. It's not rocket science.
Is this your butcher?
Yeah. Oh, Mr. Brisket. Yeah. He was my mother's butcher. He was everyone's butcher.
Is this like an old school butcher shop?
Yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna go there. I have I have had such a hard time trying to find like a good butcher who every time I go there has something that I want. There's a place, and I'm not poo-pooing because I'm sure they have good quality. But every time I go there, everyone tells me to go there. Every time I go there, I've gone there once for a ribeye and another time for a New York strip. I haven't had either. I'm like, okay, this is a butcher shop. Come on, let's get some pretty standard cut steaks here. I'm gonna have to check it out.
Yep, do and call ahead, ask Hank. If they have it. If they don't, they'll get it. You can get hanger steak, skirt steak. Everything's prime. Everything's delicious.
I love a good skirt steak. I went through a real skirt steak era last year. And use promo code Dougie T if you're going to check out.
Tell him I sent you.
Yeah, Mr. Brisket. I love this. Do you want to do, and I know I didn't prep you for this, the Mount Rushmore of Cleveland restaurants?
Quiz time. Oh, I could do that. Is that 4 restaurants?
4 restaurants. Did you come prepared for the Mount Rushmore of Cleveland restaurants, even though I wasn't prepped? You weren't prepped on it?
Can I tell you how funny this is? So obviously, what's the most obvious question I get?
What's your favorite restaurant?
Exactly. So I had this T-shirt made.
Yeah.
It said, "Please don't ask me about my favorite restaurant." I wear it underneath,
But now you know that more people are going to ask you just to be a prick.
Well, I hate the question because it's just it's boring.
Yeah.
More than anything. Like I don't have a favorite restaurant. Before I would tell you I'm not allowed to have favorite restaurants.
Okay. What's a more exciting question to ask you then, Doug?
Well, where would you go when you don't have to? Right? So where am I going to go eat when it's not work?
I like that. I utilize our friendship. I mean, I'm like,
absolutely.
What's the best place to go in Little Italy if I'm bringing my parents?
Exactly. That's the thing, right? What neighborhood, how many people are you looking for, casual or fancy, and then give me a cuisine, and then it's easy, Lately, I've been eating a lot of, Jamaican food. I love it. A new place opens. I'm there, Rich Caribbean on Buckeye, which is where my father had an auto parts store for many years, which is down the road from where Balaton used to be originally. I love a good burger. Lately it's Tin Man at Bottle House. So if you ever had it's Eugene. If you ever had the Tin Man burger at the Ohio City Galley, it was brief.
Yeah,
it was brief.
That was a flash in the pan.
Yeah, and obviously anything Doug Katz does, Amba. Zhug is probably my all-time favorite. Fire used to be my favorite restaurant. The place I would go when I wasn't working. Zhug is that place now. Vero, amazing pizza. Sense over in Ohio City.
Yes.
It's not just the pizza; it's the vibe. It's it's just such a cool place, and it's the kind of feel that it's unique. There's only one of them, right? Like you. So those are some of my favorites. I really enjoyed Tita Flora's in Independence, Filipino food. We've not had a lot of that in Cleveland. We've had a few pop-ups here and there. We've got a food truck. And so I'm learning about that cuisine just like anybody. It's really, I think, accessible. It's different and accessible, which is nice.
Here's something that just kind of shot into my mind. How do you stay so thin?
Oh, so much exercise.
Kidding. Did you run here? Yeah.
You see how tall I am?
Yeah.
It evens out. I'm active. We walk every day. I garden. I do stuff. I just we camp, and camping is not a lazy endeavor. I mean, there's the chopping of the wood, and there's.
It sounds like a pain in the butt.
Right, yeah, it's fun.
That's not my vacation.
Well, when you have a comfortable bed and a bathroom to in the motorhome, it's all right. It's glamping in a way. I said, no, I'm active, and I'm lucky. Obviously, I have a very high metabolism.
Yeah, that's another. I mean, good for you. If I don't work out for a week, I can physically hear myself getting fatter. Right.
The bed creaking.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. All right, let's do the Mount Rushmore.
Oh God. Okay, so
I know you just listed off a bunch of restaurants, but you didn't rank any. So I'll let you go first. And let's just say how do we want to specify? I just have Mount Rushmore of Cleveland restaurants, not your favorite restaurants, but what you think are the best in the city.
Well, no, I'm not going to call them the best in the scene. I'm going to call them like...
I'll let you define it because I know this is your job.
I think very representative of the dining scene in Cleveland.
Oh, I like that. Okay, yeah.
So
we'll have a lawyer look that over for you.
So you got to pick. I mean, I'm going to pick Zug, right? So Doug Katz really kind of defines, I think, kind of he is doing more to elevate the scene right now than a lot of people because like these are very kind of global ideas that are forcing people to kind of go out of their comfort zone. So, he went from Fire where you can make reservation, and have valet parking to no reservations. Good luck finding a spot in Ohio City or Cleveland Heights, and people are still lining up to do that. So, and I'm going to pick Zug over Amba because it's in Cleveland Heights. It's hip, it's casual, it's fun, it's accessible.
All right. You get 10% commission. No, you don't get. I get to go now.
Oh, good.
Yeah. All right. You kind of threw a wrench in what. So restaurants that, and these can be fast casual too. It's my show. I'm making some rules here.
Absolutely.
Of what really embodies Cleveland. So I have two. People ask when they ask me for restaurant recommendations. They're like, "Where should we go eat?" I go, "Do you want a bougie place or do you want a Cleveland place?"
Was that bougie or douchey? Bougie.
Bougie. Yes. I was going to let you try to figure that one out on your own. Notice I didn't jump right in. And typically people go, "Oh, I want a Cleveland place." So I tell them Raleigh Inn. Yeah. I'm throwing Raleigh Inn on my first one for doing like what encapsulates Cleveland.
Yeah, Raleigh Inn's a fun place, right? And it's right by the Christmas Story house. And
it's also right next to my house, so I go there all the time.
And it's a great vibe, right? It's a classic Cleveland bar that was just kind of spruced up just enough, but not too much, right?
Yeah.
And that's what you want, right?
They have really, really good food. When John, I'm gonna screw up his last. I think it's Oppenheim, John O. When he took over, I mean, they just really revamped the menu because I think it used to be just like a hole in the wall shot in the beer type of place, but I mean there's like legit food there too. Yeah. I had a Reuben from there. My wife and I went there on Sunday. I kid you not, it was the best Reuben I've ever had. It was fantastic.
Love to hear it. And they really they just built a new kitchen, I think.
They did,
and kind of stepped everything up. So I'm gonna have to go Cordelia because I think like what they're doing on 4th Street, it could have been. It's so hard to step into a place like Lola, right? Yeah. On a street like East 4th Street, at the bed. I mean, just picking the wrong concept. So this is a concept where it's like,
and it was such a different concept too than Lola.
It has to be, right? You can't try to duplicate anything. Not that they would because they're very different people. But it also has to be a place. You're right by Progressive Field. You're by the Quicken Loans, whatever they call it. So you want people to be able to walk right in, right? Yeah. Like it can't be stuffy. You want people to, and these people are very open-hearted. They're still having fun in the kitchen. It's very chefy food, but it doesn't always feel that way. And I think that's kind of where we are. When we say fine casual dining or upscale, whatever you want to call it, this is food that is very chefy. It's very thought out. It's from the ingredients to the preparation to the presentation, but it's presented in a fun, lighthearted, easy to get behind way.
And when I walked out of Cordelia, obviously I loved the food. The food was fantastic, but I walked away being like, that was a really fun and unique dining experience. Yeah. It's unlike any other, it's not super crazy. It's not like they reinvented restaurants, but like it is a fun dining experience.
I just talked to a guy. I recommended, the Chef's Counter. He's like, "Oh, I used to go here, but it's not there anymore." I said, grab a seat at the Chef's Counter at Cordelia, and you will have fun. And he said, he called me afterwards and said, "Excuse me. Holy crap, they killed me." Because, normally, like, a tasting menu is, 3, 5, or 8 courses, or, it may be, like, a few freebies here and there. But these guys, they just want to feed you and make you happy. And so he said, it was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. All right, so you have Zug and Cordelia. I have Rowley Inn. I'm going to stick in the Tremont West Side area. This might be a dark horse candidate. I'm going Bruno's.
Bruno's.
The Italian spot.
Yeah, I haven't been there in a minute, I have to admit. So that was I probably reviewed the place in my first, year or two. So here's what, you get a job and everyone starts telling you where to go.
Yeah.
And I needed those tips.
Yeah,
because,
absolutely.
Because back then, there was no internet.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, like there was no Yelp, there was no social media, there was
Where
no...
I find most restaurants now is on Instagram.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so do I. And I use Instagram. I love Instagram. But back then, it was all word of mouth, and everyone was talking about Bruno's, and it was a very quintessential neighborhood Italian spot, which is exactly what you want, right?
Yeah.
Like in your neighborhood, right? You wouldn't drive across town to eat at Bruno's, and I wouldn't drive across town to eat at your neighborhood Italian place.
Totally.
They are as good as they have to be and should be, and all that, but they're also a little homogenous.
Absolutely. Love that for us. All right.
All right. Well, I'll stick with the Italian theme because I think, we are a great pizza town.
Yeah.
And this is hard for me because I do think Vero is what he's doing these days at Vero is on par with the best Neapolitan pizza in New York. And I say that having eaten at the best place in New York. But I like...
What a flex.
I think Sense is, it just takes it because of the vibe, because of the people, because of kind of the space and the neighborhood, right? I mean, this is the western edge of Ohio City, eastern edge of Detroit.
There's not a lot over there.
This is kind of the hippest time and place to be, I think.
Absolutely.
Right now. And the pizza, and it's wood-fired pizza. Anthony, he's a pro. Vincent, he's a pro, and the menu, and tinned fish. He's got a great tinned fish, which is also very on trend.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, they have that at Southside, the tinned fish. I mean, is that worth a go? I'm a little weary of it.
That's like saying, is Italian food worth it? Like some things are, some things aren't. It's not all mushy sardines in oil. There's from firm octopus to I love smoked mussels. I think anybody can get behind.
Yes, absolutely.
And then it's how you serve them on crackers with hot sauce or whatever.
Yeah. All right. Do I do another Italian spot?
No.
I'm gonna say casual larder.
Yeah.
I love larder.
Larder is
awesome.
Larder belongs up there.
That is the best chicken sandwich I've ever had in my entire life.
Yeah.
It is awesome.
It's such a unique place because, the chefs is what the baker, they're always there, right? Like, what you want in a small neighborhood place is to actually be able to talk to the owner. Have him hand sell you something. I was there the other day for one thing, and then you leave with 5 other things. It's like he's so excited. I'm like, he's making his own caviar from walleye out of lake area.
It's unbelievable.
So it's like, would I ever walk in there and order walleye caviar? No, but now I know that sometimes he's got it, and I'll ask for it because it's amazing. It's accessible. It's caviar for the people.
Yeah, it's also really interesting too. So I did a story or something with Jeremy, and I said, what's on the menu today? And he's like, I don't know yet. I'll have to find out what we have. And it's like what comes in is what they make, and that is they have some staples, but that is a really cool. To be able to do that is super unique, and it's hard. That's a lot of effort.
It's very hard. I mean, it's a moving target. Your ingredients are always changing. Your selections are always changing. That's why his menu is really concise. You look at that little board, you're like, well, gee, I'm used to Jewish delis with pages and pages of things. It's like, well, it's like when you used to go to these Greek diners in New York where they were literally like, you're like page 8 and 9 and 10 and that's impossible to do these days.
I'm going to Larder for lunch
and to do well.
I am.
All right, so I had. So you're gonna hate me. Mike Symon belongs on our Mount Rushmore. He doesn't have a lot of restaurants left in Cleveland.
Yeah.
I'm saying that Mabel's is an excellent barbecue restaurant for a number of reasons. You can probably get better brisket maybe.
Why would I hate you? I love Mabel's.
Well, people are like, Trattner, Symon, whatever.
Yeah. But, what a sellout.
Right. But I love the fact that you can go into a restaurant and and be eating quality barbecue in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a genius, right? So when you're talking about when he opened that, I don't know, maybe it was 6-7 years ago. I don't know. It's never been easy to run a restaurant, right? The numbers are very difficult. Margins are very, thin. And in a place like East 4th Street where it's like feast or famine, right? Like it's 300 people walking through the door or nobody.
Yeah.
What is something that you could do there that, is quick but also not inexpensive?
Yeah.
Barbecue. Right?
Yes.
All the work is done ahead of time, right? You're not smoking brisket to order. These things are ready to go. All they need to be doing, held at proper temperature and humidity, sliced to order. Boom. You're eating, and you're drinking bourbon. You're spending money on the bar. It's a beautiful space. It's fun. It's communal. So genius, right?
Love it. Yeah, that was I think that was one of the first restaurants I went to in Cleveland. Loved it. All right, now the last pick. That was your last pick?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So happy I have my list. See, that's why you bring notes.
Yeah, you were really prepared. I have my list, but I don't know what I want to pick. Jaja. Are you mad?
No, I think.
All right. I love Jaja.
I think
you just gave me a weird look.
I think it serves
Don't judge me.
a community that I might not be part of.
Go on.
I mean, I think you need all these different types of places.
Yeah.
And when I first walked into Jaja, I was like, holy crap.
It is beautiful.
It is absolutely stunning. It's absolutely stunning. And that is the kind of place you was like, oh, you don't think Cleveland has, cool places? Let me show you this place.
Yes.
And that is that place. I'm not saying the food isn't great. I had a great meal. I had a great couple of meals there. I'm just saying, like, vibe-wise, maybe it's not me.
Sure.
It's
not on the Doug E.T. brand.
Right.
Yeah, love that for you. This has been a lot of fun. When can we expect you would never open up a restaurant, would you?
I was approached a couple times to do it, and we almost bought a bar in Ohio City way back in the day.
Really?
And
Are you glad you didn't do it, or do you kind of regret it?
I am so glad.
Okay.
I
I feel like you're so close to the industry to know how it works that you're like, I can't do this.
Yeah. No, I can't do it. I know how hard it is. And, you always say, well, if I had the right kind of place, if it was small and kind of, I do this and then, but again, no. I'm also, I'm getting to the point in my life where, like, we love to travel. Always have loved to travel, but, we hope to do more of that. So I don't want to be tied down by something like that.
My thing, too, is much like being, if you're a big sports fan, a lot of people initially just want to, like, be a sports reporter. Right. And then sports now becomes a job, and going to sports games, it takes the fun out of, so if you love restaurants,
right,
you probably don't want to start a restaurant. Like, just make money so you can go to restaurants more often.
That is so true in so many ways, right? When your avocation becomes your vocation, right? You're no longer doing this for fun. You're doing it for work, and you can no longer, if it's sports, you can no longer just watch a game and relax and have a beer and eat a hot dog without, thinking of all the stats. And the same thing with restaurants. I like to be able to come and go at my leisure.
Yeah, absolutely. Where can we follow you? This has been a lot of fun, by the way.
Thank you.
Where can we follow you? Where can we read about you?
Well, these days, you might know that I'm the longtime dining editor of Scene Magazine, but I'm also now with Cleveland Magazine because we are all one and the same family.
They're all the same thing.
Yeah, so you'll see my byline there probably popping up a lot more than you used to, although I've written for Cleveland Magazine over the years. I've written for literally every publication over the years. So I'm there. I'm here occasionally, right? So I'm doing freelance food corresponding for Channel 3, and then like I said, the next cookbook is coming out probably in fall. I'm gonna say fall.
What's it called?
As yet untitled.
Food. Period.
Find me on Instagram, Doug Trattner.
Doug E.T., baby. All right. Anything else you want to get off your chest?
No, thank you. This is a lot of fun. I love doing these.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on, Doug Trattner, ladies and gentlemen. I'm really hungry now.
Let's eat.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you.